Welcome to the Literally First Class podcast, where I will teach you how to overcome anxiety and achieve somatic success. I'm your host, Keri Ford. I'm a somatic success and holistic life coach here to bring humor, insight, and wisdom to the modern day woman that wants to feel alive in her daily life. You ready? Come on, I saved you a seat in first class. I will always follow my guidance, even if that guidance is a fucking trauma response and I don't know it until later. Oh, yeah, we're starting the show off on a bang today. So I was sitting and writing some content and I just thought, fuck, I was really lost last year. I got lost. But the cool thing about getting lost is that sometimes you have to get lost to find yourself again. And there were a few quotes I wanted to share with you because I was Googling quotes about getting lost and I found some good ones. So maybe one of these lands for you. Maybe you're in a season of getting lost. Maybe you're trying to navigate transitions. Maybe you're in an up level. And so, yeah, it's okay to get lost, right? And then it's okay to come home. So here are some quotes. Sometimes it takes a wrong turn to get you to the right place. It's okay to get lost every once in a while. Sometimes getting lost is how we find ourselves. Go somewhere you know nothing about and see what happens. The truth is, we all get lost as we try to find our way. And I really love this one. Sometimes we get lost in the wrong direction. Sometimes we get lost in the right direction. But getting lost has a purpose. And especially if you're in this season of feeling lost, maybe you're in a deconstructive phase. And what I mean by that is if you're doing deconstruction work, you're removing things that don't serve you. You're reevaluating things that you have always, that you've always done. You're starting to question everything. And maybe your consciousness is just sort of like exploding at the idea that there's a whole other reality and a whole other potentiality that's available to you. Because when I first started my spiritual journey and my awakening, gosh, like 4 years ago now. Wait a minute, longer than that. Oh my gosh, almost 5 years ago. Okay, 5 years ago. I was like, who even am I? Like, what do I even believe? Like, everything's a sham. I feel like I've been tricked. And I was going through a very dark time. I was going through a divorce, which is its own deconstructive process. And I was going through the unraveling and the unwinding of 2 lives that had been intertwined for like a third of my life. And I was with that partner for about 12 years. So lots of unwinding. But also I was breaking through deep enmeshment and codependency that I didn't even know that I had with my family, with mostly my family, I would say. But even just dynamics in general that continued to present themselves with different, it didn't really matter who it was. It was like different people, same story. I just kept experiencing the same loop over and over. I was also at a corporate consulting gig. As you guys know, those of you that have heard my story, maybe you've been in like the Stress to Superhuman training or one of those other events. I'm not sure how much my story I've shared here, but I oscillated for years. I've come back to coaching 3 times. Now, over the course of since 2008, so what is that, like 14 years? I don't know how many years that is. It's a lot. I've essentially always been coaching. Like, let's be honest, that was my first taste of coaching. It was in the personal training realm, where I was like on the gym floor coaching celebrities and like, other regular human beings that were amazing. And I was teaching spin classes. And so that was my first taste of coaching. I also knew that wasn't the way that I was meant to coach per se. Like, I knew there was value, but I just felt like there was something else outside of this that feels more expansive. And I'm trying to avoid saying the word bigger because it wasn't necessarily like, oh, this sucks and like something better awaits me, because that experience and those people and those like connections and relationships have been so valuable to me. And I deeply feel grateful for the experience that I've had and the people that came into my life to help me write that chapter of that book, And I oscillated for years though, trying to figure it out. And in many ways, I've always been collecting tools for my tool belt. Like I needed that experience to gain certain things. And then I needed the next experience I had, which was going back to marketing and graphic design and running a department it was actually Skechers in-house that I worked for. And doing that, I needed to collect those skills, which is where I had my first taste of managing a team. I had a team of 3 people that reported to me. It might have been 4. And that was pretty cool because I was making significant money. I was in a leadership position as a 26-year-old. And it was a global company, and I had some pretty tight, crazy deadlines that we had to meet with a high level of execution that was expected. And that taught me a lot. And so I've only ever been collecting all these different tools and experiences that I've needed so I could be here right now in this seat, in this experience, in this chapter of my book of life. And, there's times where you feel like you have lost the path, where you're like, what the fuck am I doing? Or this isn't what I thought it was. And it's been interesting to look back and be like, oh shit, I was pretty lost last year in a lot of really good ways though. Last year, you guys know, and I would not recommend this, and you're going to laugh when I tell you, and it's why I started the episode this way, but I unfollowed nearly everybody on my main Instagram account. Don't fucking do that. It will literally fuck up your algorithm. Granted, everyone's algorithm was being super cranky around this time because it was when they were transitioning from static photos as a post and carousels to reels. And then I was like, I'm a storyteller. I'm a writer. I'm an artist. Most of my time and energy was spent writing long form copy on my posts as both an expressive, connective tool, but also as my marketing. And then you go change how you're delivering content. Now it's 3 to 6 seconds for the algorithm to push reels. And you're like, what even happens in 3 to 6 seconds? You're just that's a loop of someone being ba-da-doop on a piano. That's it. What the hell? And so that threw me for a loop, and I'm having to redo how I communicate everything, thinking in terms of reels, in terms of reels and in terms of carousel content. But I absolutely felt called to unfollow everybody. I felt like I needed a blank slate. I felt like I needed a fresh start. I felt like God was saying, Keri, you need to stop looking to other people for inspiration. You need to stop getting so connected and pulled into what other people are doing and saying and thinking and all of these things. There's a point at which it stops being inspiration and it starts to feel like everyone's saying the same thing in the space. And I was just like, yeah, I feel deeply called to unfollow everybody. And I did. I unfollowed every single person. And then I was like, I would open my app because, we all go to open our app and it's just automatic. You don't think about it. And I'd be like, oh, this is a boring feed. There's literally nothing on here. And I'm wondering what my friend so-and-so is doing. And oh, did Jen have her baby? And oh, that one woman, what was her name again that reached out to me that wanted to know what song I used in that meditation? Whatever. It was so lonely. And so that was the first thing I sat with, was the discomfort of being bored on social media and not having anything to look at. So I'm like, that's interesting. And then I sat with the reality, which is understandable. When you unfollow everybody, people unfollow you because whether or not it's personal, the message they receive is she's not interested in a relationship with me. And so full circle healing, I've come back to this place where I'm like, wow, I really relationships are the ultimate currency. I deeply value the relationships I've created with people online, even if I've never met them in real life. I like being connected to people. And as an extroverted introvert, any potential opportunity to be social in this way, I love. And so I realized, interesting, okay, I'm sitting with the discomfort of being unfollowed by people. And now I'm realizing the relationship currency is the ultimate currency. So I've slowly started to follow people back or kind of rebuild my community, if you will. And then the last part is that I realized I'm not here, sure, this is my stage in whatever artistic way you want to say that. Like, yeah, this is my stage. This is my grid. Like, I can have boundaries here, all those things. And people are following me and connected to me because they want to be connected and maybe hear what I have to say. But it's not about creating an audience. It's about what I actually want is create a community. And a community is an exchange. It says like, hey, I'll follow you back because I want to be connected and I value our relationship. Whether or not it's a paid one, that doesn't matter. It's just the currency exchange is just the relationship and the connection. And so that was a full circle moment to me too, because I think over the years, especially, and this is not to crap on anybody that's given me coaching, because I love all my past mentors and coaches and they've come into my life at perfect times. But in the past and overall, I think some people encourage you to follow potential leads, if you will, or people that might invest. And sure, you're wanting to connect with them, but it feels like a handout, like a conditional relationship. So I just wanted to make sure I was not coming from that place and following people. And that's, again, what called me to the clean slate. So yeah, lesson learned. Don't fucking unfollow everybody, or at least do it all at once. It will fuck up your algorithm. And I love you guys. Like I feel like I'm coming out of this dark hole, if I'm being honest. So I stand by that decision that I did when I did it. And now I'm in a season of like, I'm not lost anymore. I feel like I'm fucking back, and that feels good. So the other thing I love is seeing what other people are doing, not like from the using their energy to like, getting into somebody's energy to use and tap into mine. That's not my thing. But to cheer people on, like to see what they're doing in their life, to see what they're sharing, to cheer them on when they celebrate a win, to send them a virtual hug when they're, in breakdown, whatever. Like I like being connected to people, I learned. So yeah, that was pretty cool. I also gave up makeup for 30 days. Again, something else I was called to do, because that was fucking hard. Honestly, while it was extremely uncomfortable to sit with the Instagram decision that I made, the giving up makeup for 30 days, was it harder? It was hard. Maybe it wasn't harder. It was just hard in a different way. When you create an identity, right? And those of you that have done my Stress to Superhuman training, if you haven't done it, you can catch the replay. You can grab that instant access training. It's a 3-day training with over 6 hours of content on my website. Or if you're in my Somatic Success Academy, you know that I teach based on the frameworks I created around the anxious achiever archetypes. And the anxious achiever archetype that I predominantly and historically default into is the perfectionist, fucking through and through. Like when I wrote that content for the modules in where we go even deeper in the academy, I triggered myself. Like, fuck, that work is hard. Like if you've learned, this is for me in my own experience in that archetype as the perfectionist, but if you've learned on some level that it's not safe to be really seen for who you are, like, and makeup's just a physical manifestation of like kind of this mask that we can wear, but really to be seen, to like own your voice, let's say, or to have an opinion that's different than other people, like to have full ownership of truly who you are and be like okay with not everyone being okay with it. That is some deep work, because when you're starting to give up and put down and take off those masks, you feel naked. You feel completely exposed in, yes, a vulnerable way, but in a way that feels like it opens you up for attack. And I mean, I just can't describe to you like the level of lack of safety that you can feel in your body around that experience. Now, I'm not going to go so far as to say that giving up makeup made me feel like that vulnerable, but there were certainly moments where I was like, wow, I just simply don't feel pretty right now, and then finding it in myself to do mirror work and speak words of love, where before I would just kind of mask it away. Oh, I can contour that and highlight this and elongate that, and I've got a fucking product for everything, like as I'm sure most women do. And I mean, we are like the beauty industries, they love us. There's an extension and a clip and a cut and a scissor and a cream and a serum and a filter and a whatever for all the things. And I just thought, gosh, who am I without this? And who am I without this in a social setting? You know, I went to Vegas on a girls' trip. I have many gorgeous friends, but like, especially these three, gorgeous women. And they love all the glam, and I love all the glam, and we all love the glam together. And like, I chose to go out and sit in the discomfort of not putting on makeup and see what came up for me. That takes balls. Like, a friend of mine said, she was like, that takes bravery. Like, I don't know that I could do that. And you're like, wow, at the end of the day, we're only talking about makeup, but at the end of the day, we're talking about something like makeup. And to so many of us, it has been important in the way we posture an identity or our success or the way that it looks. And so it just had me reevaluate like what success not only feels like, but looks like. And I wanted to connect first to how it feels, because I often always default, especially as the perfectionist, that's the mask of choice that I wear as the anxious achiever archetype there, that I don't have this vice to default to. And in many ways, that can feel revealing and exposing, but it was necessary. And I really loved that experiment. I also realized I fucking love makeup, but there was grieving. There was grieving in giving up makeup, which sounded silly. And you should go listen to my previous client, Jamie O'Connor's podcast, because I did a podcast interview with her shortly after, or maybe even during the challenge. And so a lot of it was kind of raw and real in my processing that you can hear about. But there was a grieving in giving this up, because in so many ways it had become part of my identity. But in truth, like, we're giving up nothing, because I'm not makeup, right? Makeup doesn't make me who I am. Makeup doesn't define me. It doesn't mean that I'm successful or not successful or pretty or not pretty. It just means I have makeup on, or I'm being creative and it's expressive. And that's where I landed full circle, months later now. And so I learned to love the wisdom of my wrinkles. I learned to love the melasma that was gifted to me when I was pregnant. Truly, like, to see myself as a 38-year-old woman and to be like, fuck, I've been through some hard things, and I could see some of those hard things on my face, and that's beautiful. Like, that wisdom, those lines, like, I've earned them. I actually haven't had Botox in almost over a year. I don't know when I'll get it again, if I will. And if I will, then cool. If not, also cool. I think that we just get to check in with ourselves, from what space are we doing this from? Is it to wash away and try to like chase this eternal fountain of youth? Is it to posture success and how I think it looks? Or is it to, like, for me, is it to look as good as I feel? Like, I don't want to look tired. I don't want to look like I'm worn out and like, ooh, she's had a rough life. I want to look effervescent and energetic because that's how I feel in my body. So I want that to match. But where do we draw the line, right? And that's just something I'm always exploring. I don't think we ever have the right answer. And I think that we always have permission to be constantly curious and in whatever season we're in, right? So that came full circle and it was super interesting. The other thing I gave up was alcohol for 30 days. This one was the easiest, surprisingly. I don't typically rely on alcohol as a social lubricant. I find that I'm attracted to drinking as part of either a celebration or an unwinding, as many of us often do. It's like, well, now I'll have a glass of wine so I can unwind. Plus, I'm bougie as fuck. I really love a good, nice glass of wine, like a good one. You're like, God invented wine. Like, it's a sin not to drink it. And I think that learning how to downregulate my day without relying on alcohol was really important. But the other thing was, at a certain point, I wasn't listening to my body when I was drinking. And I don't struggle with an addiction or an alcohol abuse issue, to be clear. It was just something that I felt my body was becoming sensitive to, and I was getting headaches. So, I would wake up after a drink or two. Like, it didn't matter if it was beer, liquor, wine. And I would have like a 3-day onset, like, migraine attack. I mean, it was to the point where you're just like, it's not even worth it. Like, why do I keep doing this? My body's clearly telling me it's sensitive to alcohol right now, and I keep drinking. Like, what are you doing? So the most loving thing was to just reset there. And I drink less often now, but I definitely still enjoy a glass of wine or a cocktail. But I do still have to be mindful because I think because I am such an attuned empath, and because I have such a sensitive nervous system, because I do this work with clients and I do this work with myself, that when your body is trying to constantly recalibrate or release, or you are just in an eternal season of growth, your body is a little bit more sensitive to stuff like that. And so the most loving thing for me was to give that up because it just wasn't agreeing with me after a certain point. And I don't regret that. That was super easy. Going out in Vegas for the girls' weekend, like, I don't need alcohol to have fun and hang out. I just kind of miss the taste of it. So that was a welcome social experiment. And then we also rebuilt and rearranged pretty much my whole company. Last spring, I launched the Millionaire Mindset, which was a meditation program. We still have that. It has a library of over 40 recorded guided meditations with my voice, and these are geared and created for women in leadership and female business owners specifically. So it's about like overcoming anxiety. Again, that's just kind of a byproduct of doing meditation anyway and getting into the daily practice. We do vision work, and we work on abundance, manifesting abundance. So I love these, but it was new for me to record my voice, like a whole different way of being seen, and also being deeply committed to constant creation of new meditations, because there's new weekly meditations that come out every week. And I'll typically batch record them. 4 at a time is typically what I have capacity for in my energetic somatic body. But that is fun, but it has called out the edges of me that are the creator and the artist that just want to play, but from a non-committal space. And it's called me into deeper mastery and commitment, which has been really beautiful. So that is something new. And it's my most affordable, quote unquote, because again, affordable is subjective in my opinion. It is the most accessible way to work with me, even though it's a self-paced course essentially. And that's only $222 for the whole year. And then we launched the beginning of this year, actually it was just a few weeks ago now, the Somatic Success Academy. And I decided to do something crazy, and I wanted to reevaluate how I was leading coaching programs, the way that I was allowing people to access the coaching in the programs, and I wanted to do it from a space of a trauma-informed somatic lens. So what that looked like for me was offering lifetime coaching. Like literally you make one investment and you still get coaching from me every single week, because life happens and there's circumstances. I don't care how much you preach radical responsibility, which I do. I am a huge believer that you are radically responsible for your results. There are also still things that are out of your control completely, that are circumstantial. Someone passes away, like your car gets a flat tire. You're not responsible for that. Like stuff happens. Someone gets sick. Your attention and energy has to go elsewhere, and then you're not able to show up for the coaching program you've just made this massive investment in, and then TikTok, before you know it, that 12-week or 6-month container is over, and you are only able to be present for half of it. And like life happens. So this is something kind of crazy that I'm offering, but I felt like it was so needed. I mean, there's so many other things, and I really need to sit and write down everything that we've created from a trauma-informed somatic lens. But another example is that the modules, when you join in the academy, they only drip out every other week so that you're not overwhelmed with content, and that you're not in you're not flooded with just new concepts and new ideas and the coaching and all the things. So it's dripped out from a somatic lens so that it's not too much too fast all at once. Which again, that's how trauma is defined, right? It's not the event that happens to us necessarily. It's how the body processes the event and then stores the trauma in our body as something that happened too much, too soon, too fast. And so last year, I spent quite a bit of time leveling up my ability to coach, getting some more training and education around that, certified as a trauma and somatics practitioner now, currently enrolled in a 3-year program called the Somatic Experiencing Institute to become a practitioner with them as well. And then, of course, continuing to explore, additional things around DEI, because obviously I'm a white woman in the coaching space. And so with that come a lot of unconscious biases. And so I have to be committed to my decolonization work as well. So there's a lot of things, who I'm being matters the most in all of this. And then we also reevaluated like our coach-client agreement. What does that look like when you enter a container with me? Like, what's my job? What's your job? Like, how are you going to get the most results out of a program when you work with me? How do you know it's the right investment for you? We went back to offering calls because I feel like people, they're just nervous to spend money. And I get it. Like, you don't want to just give your money to somebody on the internet that maybe you've never vibed with or had a conversation with. So for those that want to make kind of an energetic or more informed decision and you need a call, that's okay. So we offer those on my website now again, which is great. I'm trying to think what else we've done as well. I mean, that's pretty much it. We're also exploring a money back guarantee with a certain limited time frame, because I know what it's like to sit there and be like, oh no, did I make the right choice? I will tell you, I've always made the right choice because I trust my first yes. And I think that just like when you buy an outfit, and again, I don't believe coaching is the same exactly, but when you buy an outfit and you like put it on, you're like, this doesn't fit right. Like, this isn't the right fit. I believe that you deserve to have maybe like a little bit of a window of time to have a vibe check to get a money back, or maybe even just like a level of accountability. Like, again, you have to protect yourself as a coach too, which is like, well, what do you do if a client gets all the access to like all your modules and then they want their money back? Like, that's kind of like reading a book and then returning it, and saying I want my money back, even though I've read the whole thing. Like, there's people that have done that. I haven't had that happen to me, but that has happened to other people. So, the coach-client agreement is there for both people to feel protected, empowered, educated, and that there is a level of agreement in terms of expectations from both parties. And that's something that I have reevaluated and examined and looked at because it's important. It's important to reevaluate. And I think more and more people are looking for alignment with their values and beliefs, almost more than what the program offers in a way, because no results are guaranteed, right? You can't guarantee someone weight loss results. You can't guarantee someone's going to make more money from your program because you don't know how they're entering it, but you can coach them to the best of your ability and know that most of your clients have had results in whatever arena, you serve, but you can't guarantee it. And so I think people want to know just what they're getting into a little bit more, and they deserve to know that. So yeah, this is just me sharing all the growth and really feeling like I have landed back in myself, which is great. So you can get lost and you can be found. And getting lost sometimes is necessary. But can you get lost and still find your way through the forest to show up, right? Because you can get lost and you can do the healing work and you can be in transitions, but like, there's also a business to run. There's also like 2 children that I am raising. There's also a partner that I'm present with and hold space for. And there's a lot of things that expect of me that I want to be present for. And so the trick is, how can you do all of that all at once, but not do it in a way that costs you yourself? So go get lost in the woods for a while. It's fine. You're going to find your way back to you. And I truly think that all these seasons are so nourishing, and they're ultimately only ever serving you for the greater growth and what you're being prepared for. So if you're in a season of lostness, I see you. I'll see you next week on Literally First Class.
I hope you enjoyed your flight, and I'll see you on board again soon.
Seriously though, thanks for listening. If you're ready to take this work deeper and upgrade your mind, I want to invite you to join us inside my Millionaire Mindset program. This is where you'll start using my guided meditations to help you overcome anxiety and experience even more abundance. When you join, you'll have access to my entire audio library. Head over to elevatewithkeri.com and we'll see you inside.